Who's that coming down the track? Who's that coming down the track? It's a mean machine and red rock. Ain't nothing finer in the land. Them Georgia obnoxious Georgia fans. Go, go!
What's up, y'all? This is John, Mike, and Caleb back for another episode of the Nothing Finer podcast. We're talking about the big win against Tennessee and the rest of the big games from another wild weekend of college football. But before we get into all of that, how y'all been? What are you drinking?
I've been good. I know I say the same thing over and over again on here, but I'm just drinking some Coke Zero. Got after it again a lot. I don't remember pretty much anything after the game. I ended up getting drunk and putting in a future on Georgia to win the Natty, so that was fun.
I saw that.
But yeah, no, that was it. How about you, Caleb?
I am tired, but it's been a pretty good weekend. Just got back. My voice sounds decent now. But let me tell you, this morning when we were driving home, my wife turned to me and goes, "You sound like RFK." So, which was the highest compliment considering what needed to be done. I am currently working on a Diet Dr. Pepper, but I am also currently drinking some of those delicious Volunteers.
Always good. Good, man. Last night, that game was awesome. I got after a little bit downtown, and then I think I had 4 of the tall boy Tropicalias at the game.
Let's go.
Yeah, and then didn't get to sleep until almost 3 a.m. last night and got up at 8 something this morning. So I'm tired. I got some water in my Ghost Pirates souvenir cup. And yeah, I'm just, also recovering my voice and liver.
Oh yeah.
Good deal.
All right. Let's go ahead and get into this Georgia game right off the top. We are doing Calling the Dogs. So here it is. We got 3 voicemails, one right before we started. So this week's Calling the Dogs.
Hey man, Tennessee's running out there right now. I'm waiting. Them come on these black jerseys. I'm waiting.
So, at this point, I feel like it's pretty much tradition. 2 things. The committee seems to get Tennessee and their fans' hopes up before they come to Athens, and, they just get embarrassed. And the second off, Rocky Flop, you'll always be bottom of the pole. Good old Rocky Flop. Ooh, Rocky Flop, Tennessee.
Alright, so everybody knows LSU fan here. I had to take a day to recuperate. I'm really speechless. Outcoached, outplayed. I mean, we had the ball 40 minutes of the game, and red zone offense is obviously one of the worst in the nation, if you ask me right now. Nussmeier's choking. I think it's really not. I mean, I want to say it's him, but at the same time, I say it's the system. We're used to a scrambling quarterback. And, I mean, it's the same thing with Burrow. First year, he really didn't want to run like that, and then next year, he takes off. Jaden, he excels the second year. I mean, it just depends how you want to look at it, but being realistic, I do think we keep Brian Kelly one more year. I say that because of Bryce Anderson. If it wasn't for Bryce Anderson, I'd say fire. We have a lot of talent. I think the money is getting to these players' heads. Florida, heck of a game. That defensive line got in backfield on supposedly one of the best offensive lines in the nation. I don't see it. I see 2 players, not a line. You can't really say much about penalties. I believe the kid's name's Elijah Badger. He did us up pretty wrong. He had a heck of a game. Kudos to him. But overall, I think after next year, Brian, if he doesn't win at least the SEC championship, we need to part ways. Or as he would like to say, it's just been very difficult part of the season, like Moses. Yeah, couldn't leave a drunk phone call. Had to sober up due to LSU dropping the ball once again, 3 in a row. Just, here comes Vandy and Oklahoma, and if we lose to them, I'm just throwing the towel in. And I'm not entering the transfer portal. I'm just throwing in the towel. Built to ass. But, saw Georgia beat Tennessee. That was a good game. First half, I was actually very interested to see how that was going to look. Carson Beck cursed it over, it looked like. That's about all I got. Congrats, Georgia fans. Yeah.
Two things, and you guys will hear this tomorrow. I didn't realize until Chris's voicemail that LSU's lost 3 in a row.
That's tough.
They have, haven't they? Oh,
Yeah, that's real rough. But if you guys want to be part of Calling the Dogs, the phone number is 912-514-0707. And I'm going to call y'all out because, not you two, but the listeners. We haven't gotten any pregame voicemails in a minute, and we need you guys to do better.
yeah. Cut some promos. Let's get on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, come on. Also, Mike got cold taped in the voicemail, but it's okay. I think we all did.
Yeah.
That's all right. I couldn't help but notice, Mike, that you were you seem to be a big fan of King of the Hill there, with your background.
Yeah, I got Sad Bobby behind me.
Yeah.
Yeah, the game itself was awesome.
Yeah.
Like the game on the field was cool, but the stadium in the more than 30 days between home games outdid themselves.
Oh yeah.
Because it's something that I've been saying for years. Why does Georgia not have fireworks? Right?
Well, we do now.
Yeah,
we do.
That
Oh
was
man.
like the 4th of July with all the fireworks because it was what? Pre-game,
Yeah.
during the national anthem, which top tier, always elite.
Excellent.
They did them around halftime. They did them every time Georgia scored, and then for the fourth quarter
Fourth
light
quarter.
show.
Yeah, that was cool.
Man,
And it's like
look, guys, I haven't been to a night game at Stanford in almost a decade. We didn't even have the red lights coming in, the colored lights coming down when I went to a night game last. So I had seen some of the stuff, like earlier this year I got to see like the Own the Fourth Quarter video package and some of the stuff that they would, kind of try to do. But if I'm a recruit at that game, the fourth quarter starts, everybody lights up Stanford. I've never gotten to actually do that before when it was dark, which was, phenomenal. I don't know. Again, I don't get to go to the night games often. But seeing that and then that fourth quarter video package plays and everybody's going nuts and the fireworks are going off and the lights are going crazy. How do you not decommit from USC when you've seen all of that?
Well, apparently he's crystal ball to go to Colorado, so maybe Juju wasn't as big of a fan of it as we had hoped. But always time. It's it's always time.
According to 247, he has the same level of interest in Colorado as he does Georgia now.
Okay.
Yeah, somebody put their name by it, like they think that he's gonna go to Colorado, which I can't say that I would blame him, but
yeah, if Shadur is gone, they need a quarterback. He'd get playing time.
Yeah, for sure. Yep.
Yeah, all 3 of 247s are saying Colorado, which before that it was Indiana. So
take that for what it's worth, I guess.
Yeah. But no, that was awesome. I will say probably a top 3 game environment that I've been to at Sanford.
Yeah. I'm still trying to decide if it's because I wasn't at Tennessee in 2022, so I'm still trying to decide if it was this or if it was the Auburn blackout in 2007. That is like top for me all time.
I mean, it definitely had the vibes going into it. That was part of my call. I don't know if you ended up playing it or not, but I was like, it is happening. And you know what? I know we're kind of jumping all over the place, but when Kirby was talking to Laura at the end there, he talked about, it was perfect environment. The only thing that would have made it better was black jersey. I think, I think he knows. I think he's got something planned for Black Friday.
Oh, let's hope.
That's
Mm-hmm.
Hope for the best, expect nothing, but we will see. I gotta say, well, it was, you weren't wrong about the vibes being similar in that game. It was just the reason, like, eerily similar first half to that game. I guess technically we got a lead out on Auburn that year, and then Auburn kind of tied it up, but still very, very similar game all around.
Yeah.
Which I won't complain about because it means we won, and we won convincingly.
Yep.
Yeah, first time a team has scored more than 20 points on Tennessee all season. Even in the game they lost to Arkansas did not get 20 points in that game. And Georgia got 31. So
that's a pretty good defense, y'all.
Yeah.
So for us to have done what we did with the way this offense has been playing, put up 10 points against Ole Miss last week, and then come out here and against statistically a better defense than Ole Miss's and make a statement like that, remarkable.
Yeah, and just go ahead and getting into the offense of it. Carson may have started slow, but ultimately turned out to have arguably his best game of the season. Through the first quarter, he was 3 for 10 on passes.
Man, Arian should have caught that deep shot to start the game, though. I know that he should have. I mean, they try to do that. It seems like every week, or they have been doing that, and it hasn't worked yet because Arian struggles to catch the ball from time to time, as we know. But man, can you imagine if that actually hits? My God.
Oh yeah. Which, Carson, by the way,
I sorry guys, keep going.
Oh yeah, I didn't mean to interrupt. I was just going to point out, I mentioned a couple weeks ago how my wife hasn't really been in to the football lately because Jake Fromm and Nick Chubb and Rodrigo and all of her favorite boys left, and she hadn't been able to get into it since. She's found a couple of guys to latch on to. One of them is Arian because she was sick of people yelling at him. But Oscar Delp and Jaden Rashada too. She's decided are her boys. So she's back, which is phenomenal news for me because she's not just going to sit there with her head in her hands or whatever while I'm watching football. She might actually engage again. So fantastic news.
And Jalen might be there for a few years, so you got her hooked for a little bit.
Yeah, no kidding.
Hopefully.
I now have a new person I'm rooting for in this quarterback competition next year. But honestly, I'm just rooting for whoever is better.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so Carson starting 3 for 10 ended up going 25 of 40 thanks to I guess between the first and second quarter, all the wide receivers and tight ends got hand replacement surgery for ones that actually catch footballs. He had 2 touchdowns, and that scramble for his rushing touchdown was just, I think Carson's finally pissed off.
Yes.
Because in the first down run he laid the lumber on a safety.
Mm-hmm.
And if it takes Carson Beck being pissed off for him to play like this, okay.
By the way, he didn't have to. He had room to slide, and he just said, "No, screw you. I'm hitting you in the head. Well, not the head, the shoulder." But
yeah,
the statement was made.
Yeah, for sure. He ended up with 32 yards rushing on passes of 15 or more yards downfield. He was 7 of 16 for 181 yards and a touchdown. While Nico, who a lot of people said has a better arm, was 1 of 5 for 17 yards. And, we'll get to Nico more here in a minute. But you guys have some notes here.
Yeah. I want to get out ahead of it and say I'm not apologizing to Carson Beck for the criticism for the past few weeks. I will not do that. He deserved it.
Yeah.
I will apologize for giving up on him because clearly he's still got something that'll get it done. And again, I've got to give him credit for multiple times in this game putting his body on the line for first downs, for touchdowns. It really put a spark in this offense. It also helps that the offensive line played their best game of the season so far. On a lot of these plays, Carson Beck could have taken a snap, pulled out his phone, sent a creepy DM to his Instagram girlfriend, and then threw the ball. That's how much time he got in the pocket. So ton of credit to those guys as well, really opening things up for him after giving up 6 sacks last week.
Yeah, I'm on the same boat with you. I'm not going to necessarily apologize for the criticism that we all kind of dished out at him. But he still threw some balls that may have been picks in previous games, if that makes sense. I don't know if that makes sense or not. Still took some chances that could have been picked off, but ultimately weren't, and they look good. It worked, so you can't really complain.
Yeah. I will mention this later because this should have been later. So I'm just going to cut and paste this later and let you go on to talk about Nico.
Yeah, and I mean, as far as turnovers go in this game, the ball just bounces the way it bounces, and a lot of times because there were 2 fumbles on almost back-to-back plays towards the end of the first half where they absolutely could have been turnovers, and it
Yeah.
just bounced back to one of our guys. Yeah, and we'll get to officiating here in a minute. But Nico was 20 of 33 for 167 yards, and he lost a fumble. I will say, I was texting Mike this before the game, watching him warm up. He did not look 100%.
No, he did not. And I think I had a note about this in here somewhere, but since you bring it up, I don't know how the medical staff kept him out there at Tennessee. Like, especially on that last drive, the play before the fumble, he took a hit and he looked like he didn't know where he was. Like
Yeah.
you've got to get him out of there. You can't treat him like Tua.
Yeah, and when we talked
And
to,
I mean that with all sincerity and no sense of humor whatsoever.
I agree 100%. But when we talked to Kaleb last week, he said that the concussion stuff was fine. It was his shoulder that was the issue. And watching warm-ups, he never threw a warm-up pass further than 20 yards.
So he's like Peyton Manning, like old Peyton Manning throwing ducks.
Yeah.
But he tried to throw some 35-yard passes, right? And we've all seen Nico at his healthiest be able to throw 35 yards with a frozen rope.
Yeah.
And these passes were going 30 feet in the air to get 35 yards. And at that point, I was like, man, if he starts, he's not going to have a fun day.
Mm-hmm.
And
now, he did throw a couple of deep balls. They weren't accurate, so they didn't hit the target, but he did throw some.
Yeah, and that was another thing during warm-ups. None of his 35-yarders, even when he was taking like crow hops into it to try and get some power, still arc into the guy, and they were still off. So I think his shoulder is not right. At least it was not during the game. Because we've talked about it multiple times this year. We all think Nico has all the ability to be a good quarterback. And in Josh Heupel's system, he probably will be. But during this game, there's no way he was healthy.
Right.
No, I don't believe that for a second either.
Tennessee had one play of 20-plus yards and combined for 152 rushing yards, well below the 240-yard number mentioned in the preview show. And, we'll get back to turnovers right here. No turnovers, but some close calls. One that Tennessee fans are upset was called an incomplete pass when it was a forward pass. So that.
Yeah. When you throw the ball forward and the guy never gets control and drops the ball, that's called an incomplete pass.
Whether you throw it 6 inches forward or 60 yards forward, it is still a forward pass.
Yep. Y'all should have known that. You play this EA college football game, the jet touch pass. We all know it's a pass.
Yeah. And then there was Arian that fumbled the ball shortly after that.
Yeah.
And then hit off of somebody's knee, went another 20 yards, and he was able to fall back on it. That just...
I was about... My hat was going to be in the hedges if we didn't recover that. Yeah, that was literally the next play after the Dylan Bell play.
And it's just, man, it was weird, but that's just the way the ball bounces sometimes.
Yeah.
And
it was weird too. Like there were a couple of cases like that where something that looked like it was catastrophic happens and then it's called back, or the referee throws a flag or something, and it's not that bad. And then it happens again the exact same way a play or two later.
Yeah, in this game in general, there were a lot of tip passes at the line of scrimmage that went straight up. Nobody knew where it was, and then it would fall right in front of a defensive lineman.
Yeah.
Yeah, generally not a good thing for us, but
it worked out.
Night game. They couldn't see.
Yep.
5 different receivers had at least 3 catches and 50 yards, 2 of which were tight ends that have been struggling for most of the season. This was the 13th top 10 win by double digits under Kirby Smart, 10th straight home win against the top 10 team, and extending the home winning streak to 29 games.
Yeah.
That's,
I mean, what more can you say than that? That Sanford Stadium is becoming an impossible atmosphere to play in. People keep, trying to say, well, they haven't really had any home games. They're just better than everybody. Well, this team that came in was ranked higher than Georgia going into it. So that's kind of hard to say. 10 straight home wins against top 10 teams, 29 straight total. Nobody's touching that right now.
And we'll find out next year too, because how the SEC schedule flips next year. I mean, you got home games against Ole Miss, Bama, Texas. I mean,
yeah,
we're gonna have some teams coming to Sanford next year.
Yeah, and that home field advantage really matters a lot. If anybody doubts this, and John, I'll let you decide where this ranks alongside the 2022 game. I wasn't there, but to me, the crowd wasn't quite as consistent as they were in that 2022 game. But like Oscar Delp, we did show up when it mattered most. Tennessee, with 8 minutes left, they had the ball in Georgia territory. It's fourth, and I want to say 4, might have been 6. They tried to go for it, spent a bunch of time trying to draw Georgia off sides, but then the crowd's going nuts. They jump, they get a false start penalty, and then they have to punt the ball away after that. And not only did that leave Tennessee with nothing after killing 6 minutes off the clock in the fourth quarter, when they were down a touchdown and could have tied the game, but that also allowed Georgia, in my favorite offensive drive of the entire season, by the way, to kill another 6 minutes off the clock, score a touchdown, leave Tennessee down 2 touchdowns with less than 2 minutes left. Genuinely, could not have been any better in that moment from the crowd. They gave exactly what they needed, and I'll pat myself on the back for that too. I'm proud I was part of it. But yeah, that was a difference-making moment in the game, and it came from the crowd just going crazy, being drunk, obnoxious Georgia fans.
I will say that this game, I feel like the crowd was about the same level as Tennessee. Maybe, well, no, in 2022, the crowd wasn't, constant noise. I feel like I'll say this, when Tennessee was lined up trying to get a playoff on Saturday night, I do not believe the crowd was ever below 95 decibels at a minimum. Peaked around 120 a few times. But I really just think this Tennessee team is more disciplined than 2022.
Yeah.
I mean, you saw them come out. You saw them come out 10-0 to start the game. I mean, they were ready to go early on. So
yeah, they were using a lot of tempo. And one thing that made me mad, though, and it kept making me mad, they were going tempo, but every single play after the play was over, the DJ would start playing blasting music, and I get it, but it made the crowd feel like they couldn't start screaming until the music stopped, and then Nico snapping the ball. So Tennessee did a good job time managing that.
Yes.
But when it mattered most, and when they couldn't really just tempo this thing together, they were really struggling there at the end of the game, and that made a big difference.
Yeah. And for what it's worth, it was loud on TV, like super, super loud. I mean, you can definitely tell that they're ready to go.
I do think that Tennessee, and just in general, any up-tempo offense, I feel like the stadium DJ needs to know, hey, we cannot have music after every play. We just need to keep the hype up thing going on the scoreboard.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of fans, if Kirby's going to call fans out and say, we need you to be there, we need you to be loud, he needs to also say, this is an up-tempo team, never get quiet.
Yeah.
Because the fans listened. This is the first time I remember going to a blackout game where 95+% of the stadium was actually wearing black.
Yeah, yeah.
And so obviously fans are listening now, but most people aren't like us. Most people don't know that Tennessee runs one of the fastest paced offenses in the country. They don't know that in the time between, when Nico gets the ball, throws a pass, whatever, when they're walking up to where the ball is spotted, he's getting the next play and calling it out. And boom, as soon as the ball's set and they get up there, they're getting in formation to snap the ball. They're not huddling. They're not talking about it. Everybody knows what's going on. The time between plays is just as important as when they're sitting over the ball getting ready to snap it. And a
Right.
lot of people probably don't know that because they're not junkies like us.
Casuals.
Yeah. I will say though, it was definitely loud on the field. After we met up, we went to lower concourse where you walk out and had to
Yeah.
go out at field level to get back to our seats, and it was from the first offensive drive of the second half at least extremely loud down there. I don't know how we communicated at all.
Yeah, no, I mean, even where I was sitting, I mean, we had to yell. Me and my wife had to yell to talk to each
Mhm.
other, and it was awesome. It was a phenomenal environment. I was, me and Kelsey talked about it today. I still think 2019 Notre Dame's got to be number one, just
That's
because
fair.
first time Notre
Opponent.
Dame's ever come to Sanford, night game, the debut of the red lights, an interception essentially to seal the game at the end, just nuts. And then 2022 Tennessee, environment wise, I would say was ahead of this because they were ranked number one.
Yeah.
Loudest Sanford Stadium's ever been. Broke the record for the loudest college stadium for about a year and a half, maybe 2 years. And the rain, and no Georgia fans leaving during the rain. Like that's just top tier in my mind behind that. But I mean, if for me, it's like a 2A, 2B because the fireworks elevate this
Yes.
a lot.
It
Yeah, that was
really
so cool.
do.
So cool. Like, was there any talk about the fireworks being added before the game? Like, did anybody know about that? Because I didn't.
I didn't
Anything.
I didn't see anything. The first time I saw them was when they launched them. What, during the national anthem? Was that the first time they did it, or was it a different point
Yeah.
in the pregame show? Yeah, and I was just like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
this is real now. This
Yeah. No, that was one of those like when rockets, red glare, fireworks, everybody gets chills. It's like, oh well,
yeah,
I am prepared to lose my voice at a minimum right now.
yeah, for
Mhm.
sure.
Yes.
And that it makes up to me like it's like they said, look, they're not going to wear black. We got to surprise them with something.
Yeah. Right. And it's funny that you brought up the Notre Dame game a few minutes ago because, and we'll get to it kind of toward the end of it, but there's a decent chance that Notre Dame comes to Athens to play a playoff game. But we'll talk about it.
It's there.
Yeah, it's
The
a it's a
possibility's
chance.
there.
Yeah,
And
depending on who you talk to.
at the beginning of the season, they sent out what season ticket holders would get in the situation of a home playoff game. And you have to pay for the ticket, but you don't have to donate anymore.
That's good.
So
Hell
I'll
yeah.
pay face value for a home playoff game ticket potentially, which
Mhm.
that's like, yeah, I'm not paying $700 on the secondary market. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. Okay, 145 each, I think is what it is for the playoff games. Okay, yep, too easy.
Sure. Sign
Yeah,
me
right.
up.
Yeah, that's one of those, like, if you turn the screen around and ask for a tip, I might do it because that's way less than I am willing to pay.
Right.
All right, Mike, you've got a few notes in here.
Yeah, I'll just go quick with this because it's kind of out of place. But this is the first Georgia game all season that I feel like I can actually go back and watch and like feel good about it, which is nice. That's shout out, huge for off season me, because I like to go back and obviously watch that, of course. But
First
with
half of the
with
Texas game is up there too.
yeah,
Yeah.
just the
Clemson
Carson
game,
the Carson
second-
the Carson picks though kind of sour
That's
that
fair.
a bit,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean it was just a great game all around. But now that Georgia won this game, SEC slate is all done. They got 2 games left against UMass and Tech. Depending on where you look at, I've seen like all kinds of different numbers, but I mean essentially Georgia has at least a 90-something% chance of making the playoff at this point. So mission
See
almost
how
we're getting there.
just got to get through. I mean,
Survive.
we're not worried about UMass, right?
No.
Tech, there's a little room for worry, but not.
According
yeah,
to ESPN, Georgia's currently sitting at 92%, just behind Texas at 94%. And, for the SEC bias that Big Ten fans love to claim that ESPN has, Oregon 100%, Indiana 97%, Ohio State
97.
95%.
And
What?
97. Now
Yeah.
they realize Indiana's about to Indiana's about to get blown out by Ohio State. They realize
Right.
that, right?
Oh, and then right behind Georgia is Penn State at 88%.
Oh my gosh.
So
Well,
in
Penn
the
State,
top
yeah, because Penn State doesn't play
six-
anybody.
In the top 6, there's 4 Big Ten teams.
Yeah.
Top
Crazy.
3 are all Big Ten teams.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know the Big
Which-
Ten, they got 4 teams in the Big Ten. End of sentence.
And ironically, BYU still has a better chance than Colorado. South
Wow.
Carolina has 1% chance better than Army.
Army's like clinched their spot in their conference championship
Mhm.
game and has a good chance of being the highest ranked. But I guess
Tulane.
they still have Notre Dame to contend with.
No, Tulane's going to give Army some issues, though. That's actually
Yeah,
that's
that's
going to be a
true.
really good game.
That will be fun.
I mean, South Carolina has legit. I know we're not on
Yeah.
that right now, but South Carolina has a legitimate chance.
They do.
Hey,
All
you
right,
beat
we gotta shut up
Clemson,
and
man.
get to it
Yeah.
in a minute.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Bobby Hill, that boy ain't right. I'll tell you what. He's been whining about the face mask call after they pulled Nitro Tuggle's helmet off of his head. There have been pundits who've been whining about it. Not to name names, Crane and Company, but there were some pundits talking about how biased officials seem to be towards Georgia or something. Now, to the Crane boys' credit, they said Georgia just came out there and whooped Tennessee. The referees wouldn't have made any difference. But like Tennessee got away with holding on basically every play. Like, we get it. The refereeing is terrible all around this year. You ain't special, Bobby. Then the face mask in particular was the right call. Even if it wasn't, it was kind of owed to us after the way y'all been holding. And even if that wasn't true, the SEC officials owe us something after the way that Texas game was handled. So, like, I don't have any pity for you.
So
No.
with the face mask thing, and I know I keep up with rule changes more than I would say 98+% of college football fans. I want to say it was 3 years ago they had changed the face mask rule to any helmet opening. You get a finger in the ear hole, face mask. And when
That
you
just
watch,
sounds like a Friday night.
there you go. But when you watch the replay, his hand was under the ear hole on the edge of the helmet. And that's what broke the chin strap snaps free. And then when his arm went over Nitro Tuggle's face and his helmet came off, it was because you'd already ripped the chin strap
Yeah.
snaps. And it's like, with the very first replay, did it look like face mask? No. Different camera angle. I think they should change the name of the rule from face mask just because it's no longer just a face mask.
Yeah.
But by definition, that was a face mask 7 days a week and twice on Sunday.
Yeah. Should we call it fingering?
Bingo.
There we go.
Offensive fingering. Defensive fingering.
Face mask or fingering offense number 69.
69.
We are
What's
mature adults who are professionals.
Yeah. But last night was the first time Tennessee had given up more than 19 points all season. Georgia had 453 total yards.
Let's go.
Yeah,
And,
buddy.
we're going to get into awards here in a minute, but we do just want to shout out Nate Frazier for being a workhorse that Georgia needed with all the running back injuries. Your top 3 choices for the beginning of the season are all out. No timeline for return still on a freight train or battering ram. So that's
So
concerning.
he's going to get a medical red shirt at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Nate had 19 carries for 68 yards and a touchdown. Team as a whole only had 106 rushing yards, with Carson being second with 32 yards.
Just putting his shoulders into people.
Yeah.
Trust
Chauncey
it.
Bowens, true freshman, second most carries. He had 5 carries for 7 yards. And then Dwight Phillips, the guy that we were kind of excited to see, did not play. I think it really helped with Cash Jones being there, being healthy and playing. But no, while we're talking about Cash Jones, watching the replay this morning, Cash Jones has been in the system for so long that he helps Carson call out coverages when he's in the backfield with him. Like there's one play in particular, I don't remember when it was, Cash looks over, taps Carson on the shoulder, points something out, and then Carson yells at the offensive line. And it's like, yeah, he might not be the fastest guy. He may not be the biggest guy. He may not be able to pick up blitzes all that well. But show me 10 other running backs in college football that can do that.
Yeah. Can we do a little something for Cash Jones? Like, can Georgia, you got all those posters of different games and players around the stadium on the pillars. Can we just put one up there for Cash Jones?
Somebody needs to graffiti the backside of the scoreboard with just who, question mark, exclamation point, question mark, exclamation point, and then cash money underneath it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Do the Joe Burrow senior night do the jersey thing, but instead of, the stupid spelling of the name, just who on the back of his jersey.
It'd be perfect.
Yeah.
I would buy one.
I would too.
We're gonna move on to the defense. We have already talked about Nico a little bit, but yeah, if I'm a Tennessee fan, and a lot of them are mad at everyone, God, their parents for them being born. I don't understand why they're so upset. They're still what, 7-2, 8
Yeah,
and
8-2. Yeah, they'll
they're-
probably make the playoff if they don't screw up against Vanderbilt. Like,
Yeah, like you win your next 2 games, you're in the playoff, potentially hosting a playoff game in Neyland Stadium. Maybe just chill out.
yeah,
Right.
The post game calls from Vols fans have been perfect,
entertaining,
like, very, very fun.
Well, I think there's a lot of Tennessee fans that legitimately thought they had a better chance this year than they did in 2022, regardless of the injuries. Sure. I mean, Deontay Thornton was injured coming into this game. Nico was injured coming into this game. They had multiple injuries during the game, that probably just cramps or something, until that fake injury that was very obviously fake. And when Kirk Herbstreit calls you out for doing something stupid, you did something stupid.
Yeah,
right?
Literally looked at the sidelines and then gently sat down.
Yeah. And then they come over, take your helmet, count to 5, you get up and walk off like nothing's wrong. Like, bro,
at least they went through the effort of putting him in the tent for a few minutes.
Yeah.
Like, your coach didn't even look at you on the field. He was trying to figure out what their next play was going to be.
Yeah.
Like, that 100% was fake.
Oh,
and with Greg Sankey's new rule, I hope they do get fined.
I hope so too.
Yeah.
They deserve it for a lot of reasons, but especially that.
Mm.
The defense played phenomenally. At the end of the game, you could not tell that Nico's jersey was white before the game started.
Yeah.
Defense, 5 sacks, 6 total tackles for loss. Dylan Sampson did Dylan Sampson things. I mean, if we're just being
he's going
honest,
to.
Yeah. Top 2 running back in all of college football. 19 carries for 101 yards and a touchdown. But that is that's a light day for him.
Yeah, as I mentioned, you hold Tennessee to less than 240 yards rushing as a team, you're doing okay.
Yeah.
I'm actively trying to pull up his game log for this year just to kind of put it into perspective, because man, he's the second best running back in college football.
Yeah.
I'm not going to stop saying it. He has been
There we go.
He has been held to 101 yards or less 3 times through 10 games.
And one of those games, he only got 13 carries. That was against Kent State.
13 carries, and he didn't play after like a minute into the third quarter.
Yeah. Granted, this was his second fewest carries of the season, but I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that they were down and had to get the ball down the field quickly.
Yeah. He was held under 100 yards against Oklahoma back before they got their defense riddled with injuries like their offense was. And Oklahoma's got a phenomenal front 7 on defense.
Yeah.
Brent Venables is kind of, if he can do one thing, it's get a front 7.
Yeah.
Hey, we need
Oklahoma to show up.
We need Oklahoma to show up against Bama.
Yeah.
They will show up. Will they
and play well?
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. That's still a huge question.
Very fair.
Y'all ready to get into some awards?
Yes, let's do it. And I can't believe If you had told me for the last 6 weeks that we'd be giving this dude the Offensive Player of the Game award at any point in the rest of the season, I would have punched you in the throat.
They said it
Yeah.
in jest.
Maybe not. All right, Caleb, take offense for us.
Yeah. So Offensive Player of the Game's got to be Carson Beck. 25 for 40, 347 yards, the aforementioned 2 touchdowns and rushing touchdown. No turnovers, putting the game on his back, putting the team on his back. And again, dare we say, he had a few Stetson moments, not just the runs, but the way he took advantage of the many free plays he managed to get out of the defense, the little things he did well. This was the Carson Beck that we thought he could be coming into this season. And hopefully a little bit of humility and just a little extra work in practice are doing wonders for him for the rest of the season.
Yeah.
All right, on defense, we're gonna give it to Smile London. First game back in, God, when was the last time he played?
Did he get
I mean, he
hurt against
played
Kentucky or Bama?
Yeah, I want to say Kentucky.
I want to say Kentucky, and then he played a little bit last week, but it was really limited.
Yeah, but he definitely made his presence felt in this game. 8 tackles, 7 solo, and he did have a sack, which is nice. Chaz Chambliss, honorable mention. And Caleb, you put this in here, I think. Chaz has as many sacks as Jalen Walker, and he also played a great game too. But yeah, not something you would think of necessarily with a gritty kid.
Yeah. He's a lunch pail guy.
Yeah, coach's son, some would say.
Chaz was the fullback for Nate Fraser's touchdown.
He was, wasn't he?
Yes.
That wasn't Cash Jones in there.
No,
You're right.
That was Chaz Chambliss. He played fullback for a touchdown run.
They gave him the old Jordan Davis treatment.
They
love
did.
it.
No, man, there's a ton of dudes that played great on defense. I really, really like the way that all the inside linebackers played.
Yeah.
Smile being back, huge. The entire defense looked different, knowing that the short and intermediate middle of the field was taken care of. No questions asked. CJ Allen was playing his ass off, got dinged up a couple of times there, deflected a pass. Chris Cole, Raylan Wilson, both did phenomenally. Chris Cole's the one that picked up that fumble at the end of the game.
Yep.
I for how much linebackers mean for this defense and a lot of defenses in the NFL, for Chris Cole to be playing over 5-star guys that were recruited 2 years ago as a true freshman, I cannot talk enough about it.
Yeah, says a lot about this dude. He will be back in a big way a number of times.
Yep.
Yeah, and this week's
Walker went 16 yards. He drove right over Orange Church, just driving and running with those big thighs. My God, a freshman.
Player of the week is KJ Bolden. 8 tackles, 7 solo, no sacks, but he was out there hurting dudes. And once again, true freshman playing on this defense with the coaches that they have. I don't think it's too early to say that he is the next Malachi Starks.
Oh yeah. We've talked a lot about Dan Jackson flying to the ball all season and flying. KJ had some of that in him today.
Yeah.
If there was any doubt that this dude's gonna work hard and just come after it, it's gone now.
Yeah, I mean, him hitting guys right as the ball got there caused at least 3 incompletions. Because it was a blur and pain. And the blur was him streaking across the field to cause the pain.
Yeah.
This week's Lumberjack Ward, we got Nate Fraser and Oscar Delp. Oscar's a guy that we have been, I don't want to say negative towards this year. He just hasn't performed the way that we thought he would. Especially for how he ended up playing last year with Brock being out. We expected a little bit more from him. I've talked about it all season. I think that he was dealing with a nagging ankle injury until, honestly, probably this week. Because the way he was cutting and blocking and catching were entirely different than we've seen for the rest of the season. He had 4 catches for 56 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Both of them were that Ole Miss touchdown from last year, the same play.
his first touchdown, he was triple covered
Yeah.
and caught it away from his body, arms completely outstretched, feet off the ground, got both feet down. And his second touchdown, we haven't talked about it yet, but Mike Bobo, in his bag. This was the Mike Bobo bag that we expected to see all year. And that second touchdown was one of the most well-designed plays I've seen this season.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, gotta give credit for what we were just talking last week. You need to develop Carson Beck and play call better, and you check. You got it, Mike. Good job. Keep it up.
Yeah, keep it up is the big thing coming into this one.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you want to hit on with the Georgia game before we move on to the rest of the games?
Just, it's nice to be back in a position where we really do control our own destiny. Like I get winning this game pretty much got us in. We could control our own destiny before, but now it's like, okay, smooth sailing, very, very doable to get through this and get to the playoff, and that's nice.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I don't have anything else besides that.
All right. Speaking of a team that somehow, some way, has fought their way into a legitimate playoff conversation, and I say that truthfully.
Yeah.
Number 21
Need some
South
help,
Carolina
but it's there.
beating number 23 Mizzou 34-30. Brady Cook was back, which I feel like would have affected all of our calls when it came to this game.
100%.
But he did throw a dime to Luther Burden III, who made a ridiculous one-hand grab to take the lead with 70 seconds left. And then Lenora Sellers and Rocket Sanders did what they do. Little shovel pass to Rocket, 15-yard game-winning touchdown with 15 seconds left. Lenora Sellers has turned into a problem.
This man. Insane. Thank God. Again, we've said it all, like every week, but thank God we don't. Georgia doesn't play South Carolina this year or next year.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's. Oof. That. Yeah.
Yeah. Nothing else needs to be said.
Yeah. I'm just, man, what happened to the South Carolina of like the last decade? Why are they good again?
Yeah.
Because I'm still not convinced Shane Beamer's a good coach.
No.
They damn sure have a good team.
But where? Well, I mean, Missouri's finally dead. I mean, they're dead just right there. But if South Carolina played this way against LSU and Bama, they'd arguably be the favorite in the SEC. But Lenoris wasn't healthy for the Bama game, and LSU they just choked against LSU. But very lucky they have 3 losses, so they're not going to go to Atlanta.
Yeah, and so South Carolina plays Wofford next week, and then they play Clemson at Clemson. And Clemson is currently still ranked ahead of South Carolina.
Yeah, that'll be an interesting one because there might be some whispers depending on how the rest of the season shakes out. If Clemson wins out, but some misses the ACC championship because SMU and Miami are winning it, there might be some whispers that you put 3 ACC teams in if their only losses are to Georgia and whoever they lost to earlier in the year. I think it was a pretty embarrassing one. Was it Louisville?
Yeah, it was Louisville. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which we'll talk about the Louisville game in a second, but good God.
So I mean, so that's not a good loss, but they might look at that as enough. South Carolina could just knock that down to 2 teams.
Yeah, that South Carolina is just wild this year, and I mean,
I'm here for it.
As long as we're not playing them, and the thing about it is, I know they want to talk about they don't want to talk about strength of schedule when it comes to the committee. They want to talk about eye test and your record. They don't want to talk about who you beaten because then the top 4 teams would not be the top 4 teams, but that's a different conversation. Nobody in the country wants to play South Carolina.
No.
Not a single team.
You want to talk about eye test?
Yeah.
South Carolina passes with flying colors.
Yep.
Yeah. So if let's say they handle Clemson, we're talking 42-17 handle Clemson. They need to be in a legitimate conversation they'll be going somewhere for a playoff game. But that needs to be in the conversation.
Oh, absolutely, it does.
All right. This game, nobody's really excited about it. Nobody was excited about it before it started because nobody. I mean, I don't know anybody who knew this game was in Wrigley Field until.
Yeah.
The only reason why I knew it was in Wrigley because I saw like people like post like screenshots about like from Ohio State fans and stuff like that, just complaining about the field conditions at Wrigley. Like they were already getting pretty mad about it. So that's the only reason why I knew it was there.
And Northwestern did manage to take a lead in this game. They were up 7-0.
Yep.
And
Second quarter.
Yeah, and then spent the rest of the game not scoring. For Ohio
Very Big
State,
Ten of them.
yeah, for Ohio State to win this one 31-7. And you guys have it in here. Do you really believe that the best three teams in the country are Oregon, Ohio State, and Penn State?
One of those teams has an argument.
Yeah, absolutely.
And based on the schedule and performances, I think it would have to be a legitimate argument. Like I don't think it's an easy answer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think Oregon is a definite top three. Ohio State, there's a case to be made. Get Penn State out of here.
Yeah, they're just benefiting from just being in the Big Ten and keeping it close with Ohio State for a little bit.
Yeah, they are the. Well, I was going to call them the Texas A&M of the Big Ten, except Texas A&M usually ends up with 3 or 4 losses, and Penn State just loses to whoever the top 2 teams in the conference are.
Yeah, but Oregon just barely squeaked by Wisconsin. I watched it for a few minutes when it looked like it could be in question, but
Oregon, that game looked a lot more like what I thought this Tennessee game was going to look like.
Yeah, for sure. But Oregon squeaked out, and but a lot of like the pundits and stuff are still thinking that Ohio State's going to win the Big Ten, and I'm again not sold on that. But we'll talk about that later.
I think they could if they get to the game, just because the old "it's hard to beat a good team twice" mantra. I fully believe that too, but it's not going to be because they're at every level better than Oregon.
And I think there's a legitimate chance that Ohio State does not play in Indianapolis.
Because Michigan's going to beat them. Right. Thank you.
I was going to say Indiana, but...
That too, yeah.
One of those teams would have to do it, right?
Indiana might do it, though, man. I don't...
Imagine going up to like the Saturday Tradition headquarters and just saying, by the way, that when the last 2 games of the year for Ohio State are Indiana and Michigan, Indiana is the one they're going to be worried about.
Yeah.
And
where is that game?
Oh, dude, basketball hadn't started yet.
but hey, it has, and we'll get to it.
Where's that game at? Do you guys know?
Ohio State.
Oh, yeah. Of course it is.
Sorry, Hoosiers. Sorry.
Hey,
good run.
Hey, if Michigan, with a just straight refusal to throw forward passes over the last few years, can beat Ohio State in Columbus, Indiana can do it with a legitimate running game and passing game.
Yeah, that's fair.
Mm-hmm.
All right, the most comical game of the weekend, and that's Sunbelt Billy winning at LSU.
Yeah, it's in the swamp, not at LSU.
No, winning over LSU. My bad.
Yeah. When I say I hate to say I told you so, I genuinely mean it this time, from the bottom of my heart. But I do just want to point out that 2 weeks in a row, I picked the SEC's big upset correctly. So it's okay. You can, Dogstradamus strikes again, I suppose.
You need to manifest Florida being Ole Miss next week. Just go ahead there.
No,
I might. Where is that game?
It's in the swamp. Yeah.
Oh, wow. That would
be so funny. It could happen.
Okay, so Florida's at this point looking like they're gonna be bowl eligible. But
I hate that.
But how funny would it be? They get curb stomped into oblivion by Ole Miss.
That would be
then
funny.
Florida State gets their 2nd or 3rd win of the season over Florida to keep them out of bowl season.
I'd be good with that.
Yeah, that's either way.
Yeah, honestly, like the Ole Miss game one is going to be a fun one because like no matter the outcome, I get to laugh at somebody. So
Yep.
And I think it's a
Win-win.
nooner too. So like we're going to see that pretty early on.
There we
I think.
go.
It
I don't
is.
even know what time Georgia's game against UMass is.
It's like 2, right? It's like a
Oh, it's
SEC
one of those
plus
weird
type
ones.
thing.
I've actually got ESPN pulled up right here, so I can tell you. It is 12:45 on SEC Network.
Oh, okay. All right.
Current line for
Okay.
that, Georgia minus 43.5, and on ESPN Bet, you actually cannot even bet on the UMass money line.
Really?
Yep. It
Just
is
please don't
listed
throw-
as off.
Wow.
Okay.
I would think they would want people betting it.
Yeah, right.
I feel like even casinos have a little bit of more like just
But we don't want your money that bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
Speaking of just that bad, number 19 Louisville lost to Stanford, and I know most
For the
of us didn't
record,
watch this game.
Before
Nobody did.
this game,
Nobody did.
Stanford's most like biggest accomplishment in the last 20 years was giving Georgia Ben Yurosek.
They did have Andrew Luck.
Oh yeah, and Christian McCaffrey. So
If you said over the last 5 years,
yeah, that's probably more
that
accurate.
is an accurate stat.
Yeah.
They also
But
beat
I like
Syracuse
exaggerating.
when Syracuse was ranked this season.
Yeah.
There we go. All right, good job, Stanford.
But yeah, so Stanford tied the game at 35 with 47 seconds left. Louisville got the ball and turned it over on downs with 4 seconds left.
Womp womp.
Commit an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty with 1 second left. And then jump off sides before the clock even starts again. And that just put Stanford in position to kick a 52-yard field goal to win the game.
Who's the coach at Louisville right now? Dan Mullen?
I thought Jeff Brom would be better.
Yeah.
That was awful. 20 penalty yards with 1 second left is that. I mean, you ain't lying. That's Dan Mullen-esque for sure.
Yeah.
You'd be proud.
Just missing a shoe throw. Was that the unsportsmanlike conduct penalty? Somebody threw a shoe?
God, I hope so. Once I just checked the box score. I've got all the games recorded because thanks YouTube TV for having unlimited DVR. I have every college football game that's been on TV this year recorded. I will be going back to watch this.
It was. I mean, the highlights were good. It was interesting that way. But I think there was about 55 people in the stands. I'm sure like, no one's going to this game. Nobody's traveling to that game.
Yeah.
Nobody watched it live. I just saw it on College Football Final. I was like, holy crap!
The state of the ACC, man.
Nothing more ACC than Stanford and Louisville.
Yeah.
Atlantic Coast, for sure.
Yeah.
Louisville, for the record, also.
With teeth. I thought they were an academic conference.
It was great. Louisville also is not on the Atlantic Coast.
Nope.
Oh, well, they are the All Coast Conference.
Yeah, but Louisville's not on a coast.
Like the Cumberland River or something? I don't know.
Neither is SMU.
Okay. All right. All bodies of water conference. Everybody's close to a body of water, right? You kind of have to be, unless you're in the death or the big ass fucking desert.
In Death Valley.
Yeah.
Death Valley. I knew it was Death
The real
the
Death
actual
Valley.
real Death.
Yeah. All right. Are y'all ready to talk about a little bit of playoff stuff? Because we have to at this point. I know this is a longer episode, but we got to talk about it.
Yeah. We're close enough to it. According to my methods for tracking which teams have a mathematical chance that I use for my graveyard post, there are 38 teams that technically still have a non-zero chance of making the playoff this year. With just 2 weeks of regular season football left, plus an Army-Navy game, plus conference championships.
That's insane.
Yeah. Now, most of those are probably somewhere between 0 and 1%, but still worth mentioning.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and I was to say, as of right now, if you look at I think ESPN made a post about it. Most of the people that do their prediction for the bracket have Georgia anywhere between 8th and 11th right now after that Tennessee game. Which
I'd take 8th.
Yeah, sure. I mean, you're going to get a home game out of that. You're going to play the 9th team. You're going to probably play, I don't know, maybe Notre Dame, maybe Indiana. Who knows?
Yeah.
So I'm not sure how many people are familiar with this, but the website 538
Yeah, they're good.
has a playoff predictor.
Don't they do
They do
political
politics.
stuff?
Yeah,
They do. They're just
Okay,
I think
yeah.
they're just general numbers and
Data analytics
Yeah.
types.
so and of course ABC bought them out and I can't find the damn right website anymore.
Thanks, ABC.
Yeah. All right, we'll have to talk about that later because I legitimately cannot find it.
Yeah, I can't hold a grudge against ABC. They're the reason that this game last night was a night game and I got to go to it. So
yeah.
Very
we go.
fair.
Yeah. But the Athletic has Georgia at a 90% chance to make the playoff, 44% to get a home playoff game, and only a 6% chance to win the Natty, which is like 5th or 6th.
yeah, they think we're going 7-5, y'all. Come on.
Yep. Got it here. But like potential road games, if Georgia does not host, could be Indiana, Notre Dame, Penn State, which I would be here for all of those.
I don't know. Penn State is a legitimate home field advantage.
Nothing would make me happier than like for Penn State to actually have like a night game, white out, Georgia go in there and just pull their pants down.
Stomp them. I'd love that.
That would be funny because if there is one quarterback that I am confident in this secondary against, it is Drew Aller.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the Athletic, which I referenced before too, actually thinks that Georgia would host Ole Miss if everything holds right now, which okay.
If the rematch is in Sanford, I will take the rematch. Sure.
I don't want that.
I don't know, man. Like you talked about before, it's hard to beat the same team, twice in a season. So I would feel way better about our chances with that one.
I don't think the team that showed up in Oxford is going to show up again this season. I really don't.
I hope not, for all of our mental health.
Yes.
I also hope that the team for Ole Miss that showed up in Oxford doesn't show up again.
Yeah, I would like that too.
Yeah.
Because Florida's going to beat them. It doesn't matter. They're not going to make the playoff.
Hell, maybe.
Hell, maybe.
But CBS's bowl prediction actually has Georgia hosting Notre Dame with the winner playing against Bama in the Sugar Bowl, which interesting too.
Yeah, so they project Bama to win the SEC still, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
Which, we talked about it in our text earlier today. Alabama is pretty much the number 2 team in the SEC rankings unless they lose to either Oklahoma or Auburn. The likelihood of that happening is not 0, but it's close to it.
Mm-hmm.
So it really comes down to Texas A&M or Texas versus Alabama in Atlanta. 2 reasons I would prefer it to actually Texas. 1, the comedy of it. Hilarious.
Yeah.
For
would
Texas
be funny.
A&M to be in the SEC for 12 years and Texas get to an SEC title game before them. And
that would be tough.
Looks better for us, doesn't it?
Texas could actually beat Alabama. I do not think that about Texas A&M.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
And I don't want to see Alabama get a bye because I think there are quite a few teams in the country that could have their number even in Bryant-Denny.
Yeah.
I second that.
Yeah, for sure. CBS did their projections as well, and one of the interesting things, I put the link in here for us, but they actually have Boise getting a bye, being the 4th highest ranked conference champion. So I guess
they have them over at Colorado or something.
Yeah, they have Colorado at the 12th seed. I guess as the Big 12 champion, but they must get another loss or 2 in there and still win the Big 12. So that would be interesting.
I mean, maybe not if Boise's 11-1 and Colorado's, or I guess 12-1 at that point. Colorado's 11-2. They might look at the number of losses and say the 2 conferences aren't that.
Well, like Boise's only loss would be against Oregon in Eugene, and that was a relatively close game too. So
that was an overtime game.
Yeah, I think so. But that would be interesting. And they do have Miami winning the ACC, which that would be funny.
Yeah.
Right. But one thing, and this is the last note I have in here about it. If you use the playoff predictor on ESPN.com, if Georgia makes it to Atlanta and loses, they only have they have a 74% chance of playing a road playoff game. So we talked about this a few weeks ago, but I mean, would you rather make it to Atlanta and have the opportunity to play for the SEC championship and lose, or just not go at all and get a home playoff game?
Give me the only way that at this point, I truly want Georgia to play in Atlanta is against Texas A&M.
Yeah, I agree with that too.
Play them in Atlanta before we go to College Station would be even better.
I am interested to see how the tiebreaker mess will work out, because depending on who else shows up in there, you will have a Georgia, Tennessee, Alabama all beating each other, kind of nullifying that tiebreaker. And Ole Miss, we don't really know how that's going to weigh, and they could lose another game by then. Although with their remaining opponents, we'll see. I think if Ole Miss is still in that tie, I feel like they would go over any of those three teams, just because those three teams all beating each other. But it's hard to say. Like, again, it's based on common opponents and stuff. When it's that many teams thrown together, there's gonna be a mess at some point.
Well, like there's like if everybody, all the favorites win, I think there's gonna be what, five teams that have 2 losses in conference.
Yeah, and with the schedules being what they are, there's with the common opponents being, there's a very, again, non-zero chance that we get the random draw tiebreaker in this one.
So there's a if you Google M-Red, like the letter M, Red SEC calculator, he's got a website to where you can pick the winner of each conference game over the next 2 weeks and calculate the standings. And he does tiebreakers.
Okay.
Man, it's putting me out of a job. I love it.
If Texas wins their next 2, they're the number 1 team. If Bama wins their next 2, they're the number 2. Georgia would be 3 based on the opponent winning percentage. Tiebreaker, A&M 4, Ole Miss 5, Tennessee 6, and that would be all your 2-loss teams.
Gotcha. So basically, from what I'm seeing, yeah, when I calculate, because I just calculated out Ole Miss losing to Florida because LOL.
Yeah.
And I think I had Alabama losing one of their games to Oklahoma because LOL. It actually has A&M above Texas based on conference opponent win percentage. Or Texas A&M above Georgia based on conference opponent's win percentage. Whereas if Texas wins the game, that is with Texas winning the game against Texas A&M, because they only have 2 conference losses. So it looks like Alabama and Ole Miss losing those games and us getting into that tie wouldn't really help, because that lowers our opponent winning percentage.
Yeah.
So that'd be a rematch between Texas and A&M then?
But if I just switch the Ole Miss switch off, let me see why it has Georgia at 2. If Texas beats A&M and Ole Miss beats Florida and Mississippi State, why is Georgia sitting there above Ole Miss? Let me see. Maybe it's just based on opponent win percentage. It doesn't have head-to-head thing figured out. I don't know.
Yeah, it's gonna be very interesting in the SEC and just across the country when it comes to the playoff, because we didn't even get to talk about it. Kansas, who has 5 losses, beat BYU. You have Tennessee losing, obviously, in the top 25. Tulane crushed Navy, which means it'll probably be Tulane and Army playing in the conference championship game.
It is, yeah. They already said that, yeah.
Yeah, it's official.
Kansas State lost to Arizona State, so they're pretty much out of it. Washington State lost to New Mexico. It's insanity.
Again, my best bet of under 72.5 in that game. They score 73.
Anybody that's still upset about the 12-team playoff, take a hike. This is fun. And getting rid of all the divisions too has made this interesting, because normally at this point, even like a month out, like after the cocktail party, we know
exactly who's playing.
Yeah, and we really don't. We're not going to know until 11 o'clock that last Saturday.
Yeah, which is
Yeah.
just
By
good
now-
football. It's just
Yeah.
good football.
Yeah. Mhm.
By now, Georgia would have locked up the East, and
Yeah.
Texas would have locked up the West already.
Yeah. Unless they put Texas in the East, which was possible based on what they have done.
Entirely fair.
Yeah.
But we got to get out of here. So y'all follow us on social media if you have not already, at nothing.finder.pod on Instagram, at finderpod on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok. Just look us up. You will find us there. Rate and review the show 5 stars. Send the show to your friends, your enemies. Airdrop it on a plane, train, bus, automobile. I don't care. Get the word out. Gives us the ability to do more cool shit. But
Yeah.
as always, guys, remember there's nothing finer in the land.
Then a drunk, obnoxious
Obnoxious
Georgia fan.
Hey,
Hopefully we
did it.
timed that real. All right.
We did it.